They removed me from Grandma's will for being gay. Her lawyer had a sealed letter. The mahogany conference table reflected our faces like a dark mirror, and in it, I could see my family's greed multiplied infinitely. My father held the will triumphantly, 2 weeks after Grandma Rose's funeral, having waited what he considered a respectful amount of time before claiming victory. "Lifestyle choices have consequences," he announced, his voice carrying that particular tone of righteous satisfaction that had haunted my childhood. Mother finally saw reason before the end. She understood that certain behaviors shouldn't be rewarded. My name is Cameron Westbrook, and I sat at that table watching my family nod along like a Greek chorus of bigotry, each one mentally calculating their increased share now that the gay grandchild had been written out. The new will was dated 3 months ago, shortly after Grandma Rose had her minor stroke. It left everything to be divided among my father, my Aunt Diane, and my 3 cousins. My name, which had been prominently featured in every previous version, was conspicuously absent. "It's for the best," Aunt Diane added, her pearls catching the light as she leaned forward. "Mother's estate shouldn't support a lifestyle that goes against everything our family represents. Everything our family represents. As if bigotry were a coat of arms to be proud of." My cousin Marcus, who'd been arrested twice for DUI but apparently that was a more acceptable lifestyle choice, actually smirked. "Maybe now you'll reconsider your situation with Jordan." Jordan, my partner of 8 years. The person who'd held me through my grandmother's final days, who'd driven me to every hospital visit, who'd been more family to me than any of these blood relatives currently dividing my inheritance like vultures over carrion. I sat silent, my hands folded, watching them celebrate their victory. They'd won. After years of snide comments at holidays, prayer circles for my soul, and attempts to set me up with nice girls, they'd finally managed to turn Grandma Rose against me. Or so they thought. Mr. Garrett, my grandmother's lawyer for 40 years, cleared his throat. He'd been silent since reading the will, an unusual occurrence for a man who typically controlled every meeting with surgical precision. "There is one more matter," he said, pulling out a sealed envelope from his briefcase. Mrs. Westbrook left specific instructions regarding this letter. It was to be opened only if certain conditions were met. My father waved dismissively. "What conditions?" "The will is clear." "The conditions," Mr. Garrett said slowly, "were if the will dated 3 months ago was presented as her final testament, and if Cameron was excluded from it." The room went quiet. Aunt Diane's hand moved to her pearls, her tell when nervous. She specifically stated, Mr. Garrett continued, producing a tablet, that if anyone attempted to use her temporary incapacity after her stroke to alter her wishes, this evidence should be presented. He pressed play. The video was crystal clear, dated just 3 months ago. Grandma Rose was in her hospital bed, looking frail but alert. And standing over her was my father, holding papers. "Just sign here, Mother." His voice came through the speakers. "You're not thinking clearly. Cameron has corrupted this family long enough. Sign this, and we can protect the family legacy from that perversion." On screen, Grandma Rose's eyes were unfocused, clearly medicated. Thomas, I don't understand." "You don't need to understand," my father insisted, guiding her hand to the signature line. "Just sign. It's what's best for everyone." The video continued for another 5 minutes. My father coaching her through initials, turning pages for her, even holding her hand steady when it shook. At one point, she asked, "Where's Cameron?" "I want Cameron," and he told her I was too busy with my alternative lifestyle to visit. I had been in the hallway. The nurses wouldn't let more than one person in at a time, and he'd insisted on going first. Mr. Garrett paused the video. This was recorded by the hospital's security system. Mrs. Westbrook requested the footage after she recovered and realized what had happened during her period of confusion. That's not." My father's face had gone from triumphant to ash gray. "There's more," Mr. Garrett said. He produced another document, this one in an envelope marked with my grandmother's personal seal. Mrs. Westbrook's actual final will, dated 1 week ago, signed in the presence of 3 witnesses and a notary, with a full competency evaluation attached. He opened it and began to read. "To my grandson Cameron, who showed me what unconditional love truly means, I leave the bulk of my estate, including the main house, the investment portfolio, and the contents of safety deposit boxes 1 through 4. The room exploded. Diane shrieked about lawyers and contests. Marcus slammed his fist on the table. My father just stared, his mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. But Mr. Garrett wasn't finished. There's a personal letter as well. Mrs. Westbrook asked that it be read aloud in this exact circumstance. He cleared his throat and read in Grandma Rose's words. My dear family, if you're hearing this, it means you attempted to steal from Cameron what was always rightfully his. Not just money or property, but his place in this family. You used my moment of weakness to perpetrate a cruelty I would never have endorsed in my right mind. Thomas, my son, you have confused righteousness with cruelty. You've spent so much time fearing what others might think that you've forgotten to love your own child. Cameron never asked you to understand his life, only to respect it. You couldn't even do that. To Cameron, my brave, wonderful grandson. When you brought Jordan to meet me 5 years ago, I saw something I'd never seen in you before. Complete, authentic joy. That young man looks at you the way your grandfather looked at me for 60 years. That is not a sin. It is a blessing. The rest of you will receive what you deserve, nothing from me, but perhaps something from Cameron's kindness, should he choose to offer it. Though given what you've put him through, I wouldn't blame him if he didn't. I spent my last week ensuring justice would be done. The stroke didn't take my mind, just my voice temporarily. But I was watching, listening, remembering every cruel word you spoke when you thought I couldn't understand. Cameron, use this inheritance to build a beautiful life with Jordan. Have the wedding you deserve, the family you choose, the happiness that others tried to deny you. And know that your grandmother loved you exactly as you are, not in spite of it, but because of it. The rest of you might consider that love without conditions is the only love worth giving. I'm sorry I won't be there to see if you ever learn that lesson. The silence that followed was deafening. Mr. Garrett carefully folded the letter and handed it to me. My hands shook as I took it, not from anger but from the overwhelming relief of being seen, truly seen, by the one person whose opinion had mattered most. This is fraud, my father finally exploded. She wasn't in her right mind. The competency evaluation is attached, Mr. Garrett interrupted. 3 separate psychiatrists confirmed she was of completely sound mind when she executed this will. Additionally, the video evidence of your coercion makes any contest not only futile but potentially criminal. Elder abuse, fraud, forgery. Shall I continue? Aunt Diane was crying, but they weren't tears of grief. They were tears of rage, of being caught, of watching millions slip through their fingers. You turned her against us. Marcus spat at me. You manipulated a dying woman. I was with Jordan in Vancouver when you had her sign that fraudulent will. I said, my first words since entering the room. We were getting married. Grandma knew. She sent us a congratulations card and a check we didn't cash because we wanted her there, not her money. I stood, taking the real will and the letter. She also knew that you all spent her last months not comforting her, not sharing memories, but scheming about her estate. She told me during our last conversation. She said watching you all calculate her worth while she was still breathing was the most painful part of dying. My father stood too, his face red with fury. You're not my son. You're an abomination, and that money will partially go to establishing the Rose Westbrook Center for LGBTQ+ youth, I interrupted. Grandma and I discussed it last week. She wanted her legacy to be love, not whatever this is. I gestured around the table at their twisted faces. You can't do this, Diane whispered. Actually, Mr. Garrett interjected, he can. The will is ironclad. And given the evidence of attempted fraud, I'd recommend you all leave quietly before criminal charges are considered. I walked toward the door, then paused. Grandma left you each one thing, I said. A mirror. She had them specially engraved with the words, see yourself clearly. They are in Mr. Garrett's office. She thought they might help, though personally, I have my doubts. The last thing I heard as I left was my father shouting about contesting everything, about hiring better lawyers, about making me pay. But Mr. Garrett's calm voice cut through. Mr. Westbrook, I should mention that attempting to contest this will trigger Clause 47B, which releases all the security footage to the district attorney's office. I'd think carefully before proceeding. Jordan was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against our car, the wedding ring we'd exchanged in Vancouver catching the sunlight. How did it go? I held up the letter. She knew. She knew everything. And she made sure they couldn't win. He pulled me into a hug, and I realized this was what family actually felt like. Chosen, unconditional, real. The house, Grandma's house, now our house, stood on 5 acres overlooking the lake. We moved in a month later, after the legal dust settled and my family's threats proved empty. We found photo albums Grandma had hidden for me, pictures of her brother James, who'd been sent away in the 1950s for being different. She'd written on the back of one, "I failed him by staying silent. I won't fail Cameron the same way." We set up the foundation within 6 months. The first youth we helped was a 17-year-old kicked out by parents who thought love came with conditions. He lived in what we converted into the guest house while finishing high school. He's at college now, studying to be a doctor. His graduation photo sits next to Grandma's portrait. My father tried to reconcile once, showing up at the door with what he called an apology but was really just another attempt to access the money. I offered him exactly what Grandma suggested, a mirror, so he could see himself clearly. He left it on the porch, shattered. The last time I saw any of them was at the grocery store. Aunt Diane pretended not to see me, but her daughter, my cousin Sarah, who'd been silent at the will reading, stopped me. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "And you should know, I'm sorry for more than just what they did. I'm sorry for what I never said. My girlfriend and I, we've been together 2 years. Seeing how they treated you, I knew I could never tell them." I gave her my card. "When you're ready, if you need somewhere safe, call me." Grandma would have wanted that. The center has helped dozens of kids now. We hold support groups in the main house's living room, where Grandma's portrait watches over everyone with that knowing smile. Sometimes I tell them the story of the will reading, how a grandmother's love proved stronger than hatred, how sometimes justice comes with a video timestamp and a notarized seal. But mostly, I tell them what Grandma told me in her final letter, words Mr. Garrett didn't read aloud but that I carry everywhere. "Love is not a lifestyle choice, my dear Cameron. It's the only truth worth living. Anyone who tells you differently is selling something, usually their own fear dressed up as righteousness." The mirrors Grandma left my family are still in Mr. Garrett's office, unclaimed. Sometimes I wonder if they ever really look at themselves, if they ever see what she saw, people so afraid of love that they tried to steal it from others. But then Jordan calls me to dinner, or another kid shows up at the center needing help, and I remember that some people choose their blindness. And some grandmothers see everything, plan accordingly, and make sure love wins in the end.